All right, we'll record.
We're recording. Hey guys, this is Adam Carswell, and I'm here live today with a good friend of mine, Rob Cook. We're going coast to
Hey, Adam.
coast. Hey, we're going coast to coast with this interview today. As most of you know, I'm here in St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada, which is the furthest eastern point in North America. And Rob is over in Sacramento, but it feels like we're just hanging out right next to each other in this Zoom virtual world that
Beauties
we're
of
living in.
technology, right, Adam?
Exactly. And I am honored right now, folks, because you're definitely going to see a lot more of this guy's face as we continue moving into 2021 and beyond. But I didn't even know until probably 5 seconds before I hit record. He's like, "This is my first time doing anything like this." I'm like, "What?" And a big
It
part,
is, I have to admit.
a big part of our conversation today is going to be how Rob's preparing to get his name, his face, his personal brand out there, and I'm really excited about it. But before I do that, Rob, just want to toss it back over to you real quick. If you could tell anyone watching and listening right now just a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Really appreciate that. So I am a CPA and a certified financial planner by training. And at night, I actually am a podcaster. Adam and I met through some real estate meetup type groups here in the Sacramento area and through some different connections in the real estate business. And then I work in a slightly different space. So I do that as my day job, but I love all things real estate. I love all things um, growth and development. And so at night, I have a podcast called Contenders Wanted, where I interview people who are successful and we talk about how did they become successful? What is it they do now? What is it they did to make them successful? And how we all can become successful ourselves.
Contenders Wanted. And how can anyone tuned in here today follow up and stay in touch with that podcast? Because there's some really cool stories that you've already told me about guests that you're having
Yeah.
on the show. What's the next step for Contenders Wanted?
Yeah, so the easiest way to find us is to just go to any of your regular podcast players. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all the major podcast players. Just search for Contenders Wanted, Rob Cook, and you'll find me there. Our official launch date is actually September 14th, so a few days from now. We're going to be launching 3 episodes on our launch date, but you can find the trailer for now, at least on all the podcast players.
Cool. I love that the trailer's out there. I haven't heard that take before. So I know a lot of people that are getting ready to launch their shows. I might have to connect you with them on coaching for how to do a trailer.
Yeah, go for it. By all means, always trying to get better.
What was the final push for you? Because I know you reached out to me, or it seems like your face started popping up on LinkedIn pretty significantly within the past maybe 2 months, if that. When did the switch kind of come on for you? And you're like, all right, I'm going to start building up this thought leadership platform.
Well, the biggest thing came, I use LinkedIn because LinkedIn is the one I'm on most predominantly as my professional platform. And that's for my day job. So if you go and look me up on LinkedIn, that's where a lot of content that you're going to see there pertains to all my day job. But I chose LinkedIn because LinkedIn is really a awesome tool as it pertains to connecting with other professionals. I know that it's kind of in the same, at least from what I've read, it's the algorithm and the way it's all set up is kind of like Instagram was 5 years ago, 5, 8, 10 years ago, where it's a lot easier to get organic growth. So that appeals to me. I'm the kind that I don't like a lot of extra fluff when it comes to social media stuff. I like the more just pure professional type of growth. And so that's why I chose that one. I also just think that when it comes to networking and it comes to business development 2.0 here in the 20th century, you got to be on some form of social media, if not all of them, quite frankly. And so this is just kind of my first foray out there and just trying to add value and help people out and be of service, like I said. Yeah.
What have you found? I'm just curious. I'm thinking back to when I first started getting going with Dream Chasers. What have you found like the most fun part about launching the podcast so far?
Oh man. Well, I'm the kind of person, I just like talking to people and getting to know them and their stories. And that's one of the best parts about Contenders Wanted is that I've had the opportunity to talk to some people with some really cool stories, and just to hear their story and to take those little bits and pieces, those little nuggets of wisdom from each person that we can then all apply into our own lives to help us get a little bit better, right? There's a great quote from Gary Keller in his book, The One Thing, where he talks about how you have to be willing, we're not the smartest in the room, right? None of us are. And at least 99% of the time we're not. And it's always great to learn from other people, because usually they've been there before. And we might as well not make the same mistakes that they did, or we might as well at least adopt the same tools that they use to help them be successful. So for me, that's been really, really fun. I've enjoyed just getting to know new, interesting, successful people, hearing their stories, and then going back and re-listening as I'm editing the podcast and saying, okay, that's a really cool lesson. I think that's going to be really of value to people, and kind of highlighting that in the after show.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm sure that when we go back and look at even this chat that we're having right now, there's going to be little nuggets that resurface. And I couldn't agree more. Just from having these conversations, you also don't realize, like, you really start to get smarter as you start to podcast more and more, or at least maybe you just feel that way. So yeah, it's cool. And then you start putting a lot of time into your own show too. Sometimes that can take away from maybe a show that you used to follow pretty religiously back in the day. But at the end of the day, you're still educating yourself, and you're going back and listening to these conversations 2-3 times. It's a great hobby that it's got a lot of upside to it. So that's good to hear. That's
totally agree. Yeah, and one of the things I love about podcasts, or social media for that matter, is just the fact that it's so scalable, right? Like, people will call podcasts the radio of the 2000s, right? Because realistically, I don't want to have to get up at a specific time on a specific day to listen to a specific thing. I think most of us love the fact that you can just open your phone and you can click on your podcast that you choose and just start listening to it anytime, anywhere, no matter what you're doing. I'm the kind that I pretty much religiously listen to podcasts to and from work every single day. Well, at least I did, and before COVID hit.
Yeah. Well, it looks like, are you at your office right now? That's kind of
I am
nice.
at my office right now. Yeah. So we kind of do an every other day type of thing right now, but not nearly as much as we used to.
Cool. Well, we're winding it down here on our 10-minute mark. I know that's what we're aiming for. Hopefully we can come up a little bit short of that and get this on LinkedIn with no hiccups. But last thing, Rob, any like life philosophy or lesson that you'd like to share with anyone listening today that you really feel like has uplifted you in the past few weeks?
Well,
I know I'm putting you on the spot now.
No, it's okay. In the last few weeks, I've been editing my podcast, so I'm honestly thinking mostly of those lessons. And in the first episode, I interview a young guy by the name of Kyle Marcotte. For anyone who doesn't know him, go and look him up. He's a good guy who's done a lot of really good stuff. But he and I had a really great conversation about fear, and about how more often than not, we're smart enough, we can figure it out, but it's just our fear of the unknown and fear of the uncertainty of life that really holds us back. And as I've thought about that, that's actually influenced me as I'm starting my podcast, because I thought I needed to have a website and have everything all laid out, and I needed to have the perfect logo, and I needed to have an email marketing campaign already set up and everything else. And I realized, no, that's me just being afraid, delaying just doing it, worrying about all this other stuff, right? Sometimes in life, you have to strip away all the stuff you think you have to do to just do the important stuff, and you'll have incredible results. And that other stuff, yeah, do I want that all still? Of course, but it'll come later, and I'll just keep building, and it'll be great.
It'll be great. Boom. I think we're like right at the 9 or 10 minute mark, so we nailed it. Guys, Rob and I are going to keep talking, but thank you for tuning in here. We hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment, like, subscribe, give us your feedback on this conversation, and yeah, we'll see you out there. Rob, thanks again.
Thanks for having me on the show, Adam. Really appreciate it.